is there a case to be made that, I can understand if a fighter says, I don't know if I have what it takes, or I want out once or twice, but if he says it repeatedly that many times with that kind of conviction, that maybe we don't like it, maybe we don't want to see it happen, but for his own good, he shouldn't go out there? Or did you feel like he just really needed that motivation?
I think that, if he were at risk, if he were hurt, I would have 100% thrown in the towel before he even said anything, if I felt that. But I know Max well enough to know that he was just having a little emotional moment. It was more psychological than anything, and he needed a push. He could have said it 100 times. I heard him the first time. But if he had managed to say it 100 times within those 60 seconds, I would have not changed my position, because once again, he was verbalizing something that he was very emotional about. I don't think that deep down, I don't think he meant it. And I think by now he already regrets it. And it's difficult for people. A lot of times fans are like overly critical about these things, but there's a connection between a coach and a fighter. There's a code of honor that we have on the mats between myself and my training partners. It's what I have with my coaches and I have with my students now. And it's difficult for people to understand, because there's a language there that we speak that not everyone gets. Like, I know what he's thinking. I know what's going on in his head. What people see is him saying, I don't want to be in here. That's all they're seeing. What I'm seeing is the years of training and how many times we've had this conversation that he wants this.
In that moment, that 1 minute, the guy's telling you, I want out. Obviously, he has to deal with the consequences, but don't you have to listen to him at that point? See, a lot of people said to me, DC, a lot of fighters said to me, a lot of fans said to me, yeah, spoken like a true non-fighter. What do you know about fighting? You're a weakling, all this stuff. Well, guess what? I'm not a fighter. Everyone knows that. But I know to listen to people, and I believe if someone tells you, especially a fighter in the midst of a fight, 9 times that he wants to be out, that he can't do it anymore, you should listen to that guy. Now, if he says to you, Coach, I don't know if I got any more in me, man. I'm exhausted. I don't know if I could do this. No, you could do this. You could do this. Start believing. Let's go. Do X, Y, and Z. Give me a minute. Let's start the round this way. Let's level change. Let's go for a takedown. You can do this. You're a better wrestler than this guy. Do X, Y, and Z for me. And if in a minute things don't start turning your way, I'll call the fight. But he didn't do any of that. He said, come on, champ, let's go. You got this. Come on, champ, let's go. Okay, after 30 seconds of that, it's very clear the guy wants out, to the point where he has to start whispering, because he knows that he's about to be embarrassed and called and labeled a quitter for the rest of his life. That's unfair. Not only did he fail to protect his health and safety, I think he failed to protect his reputation, because now the kid is if they would have had a quiet conversation, maybe no one picks up on this. But
there is no quiet conversation. There's a microphone that gets picked up. There's no fans to drown it out. If there were fans in the arena, you may never have heard that conversation unless they got into that corner very specifically. But because of the circumstances under which they're fighting, there was no quiet conversation. I believe the kid was hoping the coach would save him. But sometimes, man, like, and this is me, like, talking as a coach, sometimes you got to send that guy out there to go answer those tough questions. I mean, there are a lot of times where you got to answer a lot of tough questions about yourself as a fighter. And Robert Drysdale, as a guy that fought and that did jiu-jitsu at the highest level, knows about answering those questions. And I think he wanted to send Max out there to answer those questions. I just think that some of these situations are just so different. Like, I was way on board with stopping the Anthony Smith fight because he was getting tore up. I wanted Felicia Spencer's fight to get stopped. And I know she wasn't getting just bludgeoned like Anthony was, but I thought that it was very clear that she wasn't winning. But watching that fight in between rounds, thinking that it was 1-1, I thought he should have went back out there. And I'm not trying to cast judgment on him, but ultimately I was happy the fight was stopped because that's what he wanted. And, you know, you leave those questions for him to answer. But there was a moment there where he could have answered some really tough questions about himself. And if he would have went out there and he would have lost still, he would have felt pretty good about getting out there and getting through that. And I understand it was short notice. And, you know, there are a lot of built-in reasons why Max Rohskopf didn't fight to the best of his ability. But I know what Robert was trying to do. He wanted his athlete to answer some tough questions.
You did say recently to MMA Fighting that you don't believe Dustin has the chin that Felder has. Take us sort of into that. What fights of his did you compare and sort of base that on? And how do you see that being a factor in this fight? Do you believe this is going to be a lot quicker than what people think it might be?
I don't want to say, maybe I made a mistake in saying chin. I want to say poker face. I feel like Paul Felder, he's the better actor. He had a phenomenal poker face because he was hurt. You know, he went to the hospital. He's fractured orbital and had you know, a number of injuries. So you know, he was definitely hurt, but he didn't show it once in that fight. He didn't show for a second that he was hurt or he was wobbled. Whereas Poirier, on the other hand, you can go back and you can see him when he does get hit. He does show it. You know, so the chin. Anyone's chin can be touched and they can go to sleep. I know that full well. So I'm not talking so much about getting just flatline knocked out and hurt, but there's a lot of subtle things that I can see when I go back. Like he'll get hit and he will wobble or he'll look rocked or he'll pause for a second. And I feel like I'm one of the better guys in the world at seeing that in people and capitalizing on that.
As a former title challenger, you know, in Dustin, where do you think he's most sort of dangerous? Where do the biggest tests lie for you?
I would feel it's in his experience. Like he has been in that main event slot 5 previous times. I believe he's fought in main events, and from me being in a main event and going the full 5 rounds, I learned a lot from that fight. So I can only imagine what he's learned from going through that and experiencing that a number of times, you know, 5 times. That's a lot of main event experience. So it would come down to that experience and him just being comfortable in that situation.
It's interesting that you bring that up because, yeah, he has had a lot of experience, but then we've seen a couple of situations where, for example, him versus Conor McGregor or him versus Khabib, we saw a Dustin that was almost defeated going in there and mentally kind of wasn't quite there, and the moment seemed like it was quite a lot for him. I mean, what do you take away from seeing that Dustin and then seeing the Dustin that's been able to go into the octagon and put on those impressive performances against guys like Max Holloway? Is there 2 Dustins in your mind, or is it just the fact that maybe those were massive names and the situations were a little bit different for him in those fights?
To be honest, like in all honesty, I watched the Khabib fight from memory. Like I saw it at the time, but I haven't gone back and watched that fight because I really feel like there's nothing I can gain from watching that fight or studying that fight. I don't think, you know, me or Khabib's skill sets could be further from each other from most people in the division. You know, it's not really like I'm going to press him against the cage and take him down and control him like Khabib did. So there's not much I can gain from that. So I haven't even seen that side. I've just seen the very durable fighter, the guy that went in there against Gaethje, the guy that went out there against Holloway and has an incredible pace and can put it on someone for 5 rounds. So that's a Dustin that I'm preparing for. I'm not preparing for someone that's going to go in there and quit.
Now, let's talk about heel Curtis Blades. Ooh, Curtis Blades goes in there. He beats up Alexander Volkov and he pisses off everyone. And he says, you know what? I'm happy I pissed you guys off. I'm the heel now. He pronounces himself as the heel. So
wait, when did this happen?
Oh, he said it after the fight.
Really?
His lip all cut. Yeah, he said literally, I'm the heel. I'm okay with the criticism. I'm at peace with it. Dana White wasn't happy with the performance. Dana said that he talked a lot of smack before the fight. I didn't really see all that much smack. He put out a tweet which stated, hey, if you guys are looking for a 25-minute stand-up war, you're not going to get it. I'm going to ragdoll this guy. And in the end, that's kind of what he did, at least for the first 3 rounds.
He didn't ragdoll him. Ragdolling him is like some of the things that I've done to people over the course of my life. That's ragdolling. He took him down and he held him down.
So
right? He didn't throw him. He didn't slam him. He didn't do any of that stuff. So I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying. Look, Curtis is very direct with his approach to fighting. The Junior Dos Santos knockout was an outlier. That's like not normal for Curtis Blades. Normally he takes you down, he tries to pound you out. You know, he beats you at the ground and pound, and he wins like that. And he tried that with Alexander Volkov, but he couldn't get the damage on him because of the range. So, but you know what? I don't think it was bad. I think what happened was Curtis hit Volkov with a really nice right hand. And Volkov just kind of ate it and went forward. And I think that's when Curtis was like, okay, I'm not striking with this dude at all. I'm gonna take him down.
But wouldn't we be criticizing him right now if he did stand and strike with him for 25 minutes? Like, we all knew how that fight was going to go, especially in the smaller cage. The best game plan would be to try to take him down.
Well, the small cage is great for wrestlers, right?
Exactly.
There's less place to run. But yeah, I get it. But you know what was funny? I was watching the fight and I watched it early, thinking like, because I think very highly of Curtis Blades. I think at some point he's going to be in the UFC heavyweight championship fight and he might become the champion. I just remember being excited about watching him in Volkov, and then 5 seconds in when he took him down, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of these fights. But there were moments where Volkov might have took him down a couple times, if I'm not mistaken. Curtis landed some good shots on the feet. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's just hard, man, when you have a Josh Emmett versus Shane Burgos right before, and then those big guys go out there and they're not as fast. They're kind of lumbering. They're big and they're just wrestling the whole time. It's I think it was part of the reason the fight had that negative feel to it was because of what we had just watched.